Hey doing everyone, welcome back. Well, seems a lot of people like melting down over things that have no impact on them whatsoever. I see all kinds of, and particularly from the fuck your feelings crowd, right? They've got a major case of the feelings over certain things. Yeah. Um, a few years ago, it was the beer can, the Bud Light thing. Uh, but that's been a few years. Uh, but now we have, the first major league, the first woman to umpire a baseball game in the major leagues during the regular season, and they're flipping out about that. And now we have the Minnesota Vikings are the most talked about team as it pertains to this, but male cheerleaders. And yeah, these guys, they fit every stereotype of being gay. Are they? Don't know, don't care. But the way that they fit every stereotype is they're out shaking the pom-poms and dancing like the women. Right? Okay, fine, more power to them. It's not for me, but if that's what they want to do, cool, have at it. I'm not really a football fan, so I'm not going to start watching games now because it's opened up. But if I was a football fan, I wouldn't stop watching games. Right? I wouldn't stop watching games if, you know, just because of something like that. It's kind of silly, don't you think? And again, not being a football fan, my understanding is the cheerleaders really aren't shown on TV that much anyway. And if you go to a game, now I am a hockey fan, you know that, right? And hockey, no cheerleaders really. Except for when I'm at a game, then I am the cheerleader. But yeah, cheerleading actually started out as a completely male sport. And then at some point, it became predominantly female. And, I haven't actually verified this, but I've been told that we've had 4 United States presidents who have been cheerleaders. Now, I do know that George W. Bush was a cheerleader, right? That's a well-known fact. I believe Ronald Reagan was also a cheerleader. Not 100% sure on that, but I've heard that. Also, Dwight Eisenhower and Franklin Roosevelt apparently. Again, I have not verified that information, but who cares? Who cares? Does that affect their politics and what they did for the country, positive or negative? No, it doesn't. Right? And you want to make the argument that, well, they weren't out there shaking pom poms. Okay, what's your point? They were still cheerleading. And you know what? These guys want to go out there and shake their stuff. Cool. I think a lot of the guys who are upset about this are, well, they're probably built about like that. And if you know what I mean. And, they probably drive massive trucks because, they're built about like that. And, they define themselves based on their ability to be violent. And, they've got the toxic form of masculinity going on, right? But the fuck your feelings crowd is getting a big case of the feels, right? Again, I've mentioned the beer can, the Dylan Mulvaney beer can, which, by the way, was never available in stores. It was sent specifically to Dylan Mulvaney to basically appeal to her audience, advertise Bud Light to her audience. And yes, I'm referring to Dylan as her because that's what she prefers. Okay? And, you know, Jen Powell being the first woman to umpire a regular season Major League Baseball game. Did she get the first call wrong? It looks like it. But why is everybody focused on that first call? How did she do the rest of the game? By all accounts, she wasn't great, wasn't horrible. You know, I didn't watch the game, so I don't know. But basically, she did a decent job, by all accounts. Right? Of course, some want to say that she was the worst umpire ever, you know, but how much pressure was on her, right? And why don't they compare her to male umpires, their very first game in the major leagues, right? They want to compare her to other umpires that day. You know, and she was like 13th out of 15 or something like that. Okay, compare her to other male umpires on their very first day behind the plate, right? The cheerleaders, who cares? You know what? Who really cares? How does it affect you? Well, nobody wants to see that. Okay, you don't want to see it, don't look at it. I mean, if you find it that offensive, don't look. You know, and then those saying, well, I'm never going to watch football again. Dude, you said the same thing when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, so why are you watching football anyway? Why are you even watching football anyway? You're never going to watch again, but you said that when Colin Kaepernick took a knee. Right? Speaking of Colin Kaepernick, right, something else these people are melting down about is the messages in the end zone of, each NFL team has their choice of one of 4 slogans to put in the end zone. In fact, I've got those right here. End racism, stop hate, choose love, inspire change. They can choose to put one of those in the end zone. And people are saying, stop making football political. Don't make sports political. I'm sorry, since when is not being a racist-ass bigot political? Oh, wait, never mind. Never mind. Yeah. Hating people, being a racist, homophobic bigot, hating people, and changing things, yeah, that's very political, isn't it? You know, because that's all you got on your side, right? That's all you got is hate and bigotry. No actual policies that make any sense, right? You know, I don't know if you can tell what this is that I'm wearing. It's a Judas Priest t-shirt, right? Judas Priest, a metal band. I wonder how many of these people are metal fans, right? If you don't know about Judas Priest, Rob Halford, their singer, came out as gay in 1998. Guess what? I didn't stop listening to them. I still love their music. Actually, I saw them a couple of times within the past few years, right? And they were fantastic. Put on a great show. Rob still sounds great. And still love the songs. The songs still hold up. Right? But there are other gay metal singers out there. Plenty of them, actually. I wonder how many of them are country music fans. There are plenty of gay country singers out there, aren't there? I mean, you don't hear about them as much because, a lot of country singers are involved with the whole bigotry and hatred thing, the Jason Aldeans of the world and whatnot. But you ever heard of Brothers Osborne? TJ Osborne is gay. Openly. So I'll tell you what. If hating people, if gay people be existing, if something different bothers you, too bad. Too bad. Things are changing. Positive, negative, that's for you to determine. But things are changing, right? And personally, I think mostly for the better. You know, I will never understand what it's like to be gay or trans. You know, I will never understand that. What I do understand is that they're human beings worthy of being treated with dignity and respect. That's what I understand. And I'm going to do that. Right? And you may find it icky. Well, too bad. Too bad. You know, you may not like the political messages of end racism in the NFL end zone. The only reason that you would hate that message is if you're the one in charge of bringing the lighter fluid to the cross burning. You know? If maybe your robes are at the cleaners or something. That's the only reason you would really have to hate a message like that, isn't it? You know, dressed up in your robes and your bed sheets, you know, just like Forrest Gump said. Yeah. I tell you what, if you've got a problem with women invading men's spaces, like, you know, Major League Baseball, I actually did a video on this called A Woman's Place is at Home, referring to home plate, of course. Or Women Belong at Home, or something like that. I don't remember the exact title of the video. If you have a problem with gay men being involved in, you know, masculine activities, well, maybe sports isn't for you, right? Professional wrestling, for example. How many of you like professional wrestling? You know, men in tights grabbing each other. Often down in the crotch region, too, just to pick each other for a body slam, right? And the game of football itself, you know, guys in spandex bent over, and, you know, the quarterback in the center, you know, it doesn't exactly look like heterosexual activity. I mean, I understand it's just part of the game and it's always been that way, but it doesn't look like heterosexual activity, does it? So, I don't know. Maybe get over yourselves, right? And you know what? For a fuck your feelings crowd, you sure have a lot of feelings about certain things that don't impact you at all. If it has no effect on your life, why are you getting all worked up about it? Seriously. And my response to the fuck your feelings crowd, especially those who have feelings about everything that has no effect on them, is fuck your feelings. I'll see you next time.